Hi, welcome to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be sharing my March reading wrap up. So in the month of March, I did not get through very many books, but that's okay. I'm still going to share the ones that I did read. So yeah, let's just get into the video. So the first book that I read was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This one was obviously a reread for me, and I did do a reading vlog for this, so that is up on my channel if you want to see more of my thoughts on it. But anyway, obviously this is a pretty popular, well-known book, and I don't really feel like I need to go into what it's about at all, but the show just came out on Amazon Prime for this book, so I wanted to do a reread for it before I watched the show. So that's what I did. I listened to the audiobook. I've seen a lot of people say that the audiobook for this one is really good, so that's something I knew I wanted to do when I did do a reread for this. Like, I wanted to listen to the audiobook, and I did, and I really liked it. I thought it was really good, and I really enjoyed reading this book again. I feel like my appreciation for it just grew even more. Like, I really loved it the first time I read it, but now I just love the story even more, especially after watching the show. I also really loved the show, so I also did a video for that, just talking about my thoughts on the show. But the first time I read it, I rated it a 4.5, and I mean, I didn't change my rating. It's still like a 4.5 to me. But yeah, this was the first book that I read in the month of March. So next, I decided to read some hockey romances. I did recently do a video for that as well. It was a reading vlog of reading hockey romances, so that should be up on my channel by now. But basically, I did start that reading vlog in January, and then I decided to finally continue with it and read some more hockey romances and vlog them and just kind of add it on to what I had filmed in January. But the next book that I read was Offside by Avery Keelan. So like I said, this isn't that reading vlog. I went in depth there. It's spoiler free if you want to know kind of more of my thoughts. I'll try to not go too in depth. I feel like I always say that and then I end up rambling about books anyway, but I'll try not to do that with this book. But basically this is a hockey romance, like I said. It follows this girl named Bailey, and she has this boyfriend on the hockey team at her school, and her brother's also on the hockey team, and then her boyfriend ends up breaking up with her on her birthday, and so she kind of decides to rebound with this guy from their rival hockey team. And so obviously everyone kind of like turns on her once her boyfriend breaks up with her, and they also kind of turn on her because she is hanging out with this guy from the rival hockey team. And that's mainly what this book is. Like, it's kind of a friends to lovers story just between Bailey and then the other guy. His name is Chase, and they just kind of start spending time together and eventually start to fall for each other. It's like a he falls first trope, so he starts to really like her and she's kind of the one who's a little bit more hesitant. So yeah, this book was incredibly long, like way too long. Like, I think it's over 600 pages. No, it's less than 600, but it felt way longer than that. This one just dragged on for so long. I was so bored while I was reading it. I didn't really enjoy it at all. I mean, well, that's not true. There were parts of it that I did enjoy, but overall it was a really boring book. I feel like this book was one where it's probably enjoyable if you like the characters. So like because there's not really a plot. So if you're liking the characters and you're kind of like attached to them or just like really want to read about them, then I feel like I guess you would enjoy it. But I didn't even like the characters really. Like, I didn't care for them at all. I thought they were kind of boring. So because of that, I just like didn't even care to read about them, and the whole book was just really boring to me. Like I said, there were parts I liked. Like, there were definitely parts of the book where I thought it was like getting good or it was gonna get better, and then it just didn't. So yeah, I was just kind of disappointed with this book. I was really hoping to like it, but I just didn't. So I rated it 3 stars, which I feel like is kind of generous, but mainly because there was just some redeemable things about it, but overall it was just too boring and too long and just dragged on for way too long. But then after that, I read Play With Me by Becca Mack. Again, this was part of my whole hockey reading vlog video. So this one is another hockey romance. This is the second book following Consider Me. So this book follows Garrett and Jenny. Garrett plays on this hockey team, and then Jenny is his team captain slash best friend's little sister. So obviously there's kind of like that whole forbidden aspect. So in this book, the two of them basically become friends with benefits. They end up living in the same building, and at first her brother asks him to just kind of like keep an eye on her, but eventually they start spending time together and they kind of start sneaking around, but it's just a casual relationship. Like I said, they're just friends with benefits, but obviously eventually they do start to fall for each other. They kind of start to form this friendship. They basically become like best friends and eventually fall in love, but they're also not really supposed to be together, like I said. That's mainly what this one is about. This one, I actually really enjoyed it a lot. I loved the first book, Consider Me, so I was excited for this one, and I finally read it. I had been wanting to read it for months now. So this one, I rated it a 4.25, mainly because I just liked Consider Me more, and I rated Consider Me a 4.5, but this one was a really enjoyable book. There was a lot of cute, funny moments. I love all these characters. This is part of a series, so only the first 2 books are out so far, but I'm already excited for the rest of them because I love the the whole like found family with these characters. They're all just really likable to me. And this is a book, like I said with the other one with Offside, how if you don't like the characters, it's just really boring. This is a book where I really love the characters, so even if it does kind of drag on a little bit at times, or it is a little bit long, it's still enjoyable to me because I like the characters. So for my next book, I actually did not finish it, and I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it anyway, but this was my first DNF ever, which if you don't know, DNF means did not finish. But also if you didn't know, I've talked about this before, but I am horrible about DNFing books. Like I can't do it. I can never bring myself to quit reading a book once I start it. When I was younger, I would DNF books, but in the past like couple years since getting back into reading, I have not DNF'd a book at all. So this is like my first DNF, which is crazy. I just did it though. Like I didn't even care. Like normally I care so much and I'm like, I can't do it. I need to finish reading the book. But this one, I just did not care at all. And that was Blindsided by Amy Dawes. So this book is a sports romance. They are, I was gonna say soccer players, but I mean they live in England, so I guess it's football. Anyway, so the male main character plays soccer and then the female main character is his best friend, and basically she is like almost 30 and she's a virgin, and I guess that's like this huge deal or whatever, and I don't know what else because I didn't really get that far into this book, but basically they kind of make a deal where he's gonna help her with like dating and all that type of stuff because she has no experience and she has a crush on this guy, I guess, and she's always like really awkward around him, so he tells her that he'll help her out. So I got to like 17% and then that's when I quit. I just couldn't do it anymore. I did not like this book. Just like those first few chapters that I read, I did not care for them at all. I didn't even like the characters. Like they were just annoying me. Just like the way they acted and like the stuff they would say, like it annoyed me because I'm like, you're like 30. I guess she wasn't 30 yet, but she was almost 30, and I don't know, I just didn't like the way that she was. I didn't like the way that he was either. Like they weren't likable to me. I did not care at all. I've never done that with a book, like just started reading it and like been that disinterested from the start. Normally I'll like read a couple chapters and then I'll be able to kind of get into it at least a little bit. Even if I don't necessarily love the book, I still am able to like kind of give it a chance. This one I just couldn't do it. Like I said, I normally have a hard time DNFing books and I just don't do it, but this one I just was easily able to DNF. This book was just not for me at all. It wasn't interesting to me at all. So like I said, I DNF'd basically at 17%. But one of my whole things about why I can't DNF is because I have to know the ending of the book. Like I want to know, and I don't like to just skip to the ending. But this one I did skip to the ending. I did decide to read it. I was just going to completely quit and like return it on Kindle Unlimited, but for some reason it was just bothering me and I was like, I just at least want to know how it ends. I skipped to like the conflict, kind of skimmed a few pages there just to see what the conflict was, and then I just skimmed where the conflict got resolved just to see how it got resolved. And then it just made me so glad that I didn't waste my time on this book, because just from what I read, I was like, I would have hated this so much. I would have been so annoyed that I read this book. So that's my experience with my first ever DNF. I feel kind of proud of myself for doing it, but yeah, I finally did it. So maybe I'll get better about it in the future and start DNFing books that I don't like. So then after that, I was still in the mood to read a sports romance. So I decided to read Right Man, Right Time by Megan Quinn, which I did say in my March TBR video that I wanted to get into some Megan Quinn books. This is actually the third book in this series. It's a series that follows these professional hockey players. Another thing, if you don't know this about me, I've talked about it before, but I don't like to read books out of order. Like if a book is part of a series, even though they're standalones, like I still want to read them in order. So this is just like very like out of character for me. I never do this. I just was doing out of character things this month, I guess. It's like not even that big of a deal. I'm like being dramatic about it for no reason. But anyway, I decided to read the third book in this series just because I've been seeing it all over TikTok. People have been reading it because it just came out and Megan Quinn has obviously been promoting it, and I just really wanted to read this one and I didn't want to wait. Like I didn't want to have to read the first two books and before I read this one, especially because I just wasn't in the mood to read the first two books at this point, and like this one was the one that just sounded interesting to me based on like the tropes and everything. So yeah, I just decided to go ahead and read this book and read them out of order, which is fine. I feel like it's still fine, and I actually ended up really liking this one, so I'm planning to go back and read the first two as well. But anyway, this book follows Silas and Ollie. So Silas is a professional hockey player and then Ollie is a college student. So this one is an age gap. They're 10 years apart. She is 21 and then he's 31. And basically she is at a bar with her best friend and they just got their final assignments for their internship. They have to complete this internship and get credit, and it's part of their whole like degree plan, and it's something that they need to graduate. And so she's in journalism and she has to write this article article for her assignment, and they get different topics that they have to write about, and she gets assigned hockey, and she knows nothing about hockey, so she's very disappointed in that. And so she finds out that she was given that assignment by one of her classmates slash co-workers, I guess. And so that girl, her name is Candace, and the two of them don't like each other, and also Candace is dating Ollie's ex-boyfriend. So they run into each other at this bar, and Candace is there with the ex-boyfriend, and so they're kind of like rubbing it in her face a little bit. And so Ollie decides to lie and say that she's already like moved on, she has a boyfriend and everything, and that he's there at the bar. So she sees this guy sitting alone at the bar, and she goes up to him and she kisses him. And so it turns out that that guy is Silas, and so basically he helps her out. He plays along, he pretends to be her boyfriend, but then once they walk away, he tells her that she owes him, and so he wants to make this deal with her where they fake date, because he just recently found out that his ex-girlfriend now works for the hockey team. So he wants someone to like bring to events with him and stuff, or like when he runs into his ex-girlfriend. So they make this deal. She's gonna help him out and be his fake girlfriend, and then he's also gonna help her out with her articles since she has to write about hockey. So this book overall, I did really like it. Like, I thought it was really enjoyable, very entertaining. It was a really cute book. I was having a fun time reading it. I liked seeing their whole fake dating, the development with that and everything. I will say I think this one definitely had like a good start, and then at one point I wasn't loving it as much as I did in the beginning, but like I said, overall I did still really enjoy it. I think one of the biggest things with this book is like the two of them were very attracted to each other from the beginning, and so they kind of had that already between them, but they weren't going to do anything about it. Like from the beginning they decided there was going to be nothing physical between them. But with this book, I feel like there was this kind of sudden shift of them just kind of like having this like lust and attraction between them, and then all of a sudden them like having feelings for each other. I don't know, I just feel like it flipped too quickly. Just in my opinion, that's how the book seemed. But like I said, overall it was a good, enjoyable book. I decided to rate this one 4 stars because I did like it, and I'm definitely planning to read more by Megan Quinn, and I'm planning to read the first 2 books in the series as well. I'm not like super eager to get to them because I feel like I kind of already know a little bit about those books because you do see those characters in this book, but eventually I do plan to read those ones as well. So those were the books that I completed in the month of March. I am gonna talk about what I'm currently reading just because I felt like I didn't talk about very many books in this video, but I am currently reading A Court of Silver Flames. This one was on my March TBR and I started it. I actually started this book while I was reading Play With Me, so I was gonna pause reading Play With Me and then go into this book, but then I ended up not doing that. I only read like 2 chapters and then I went back to Play With Me. I did attempt to pick it up again at one point in March, and I just like was never feeling that motivated to read it. I only got to chapter 5, so for now I just haven't been feeling like reading this book. I'm listening to the audiobook of it, but I just haven't been that motivated. But I do plan to finish it in the month of April. I'm just having a bit of a difficult time getting through it right now. It's so long, and then it's like it's in 3rd person. I talked about this in my April TBR because I did bring up this book since it's technically on my April TBR, but yeah, the 3rd person is really bothering me in this book. Well, it's not too bad because I'm listening to it. If I wasn't listening to it, I would not be getting through this book at all. Like, there's just no way. But I just wanted to mention this book because it is what I'm currently reading. Obviously I'll finish it in April hopefully and share all my thoughts on it in my April wrap up. So those are all the books that I read in the month of March. Obviously I didn't read that many, but that's okay. I just wasn't that motivated this month. I also went like 2 weeks without posting on here. It just, the motivation was kind of gone this month, but I'm feeling motivated now. Like, I haven't completely lost my motivation. It just kind of was gone for a couple weeks, but I'm excited for the next month to see what books that I get through. But yeah, that is pretty much it for this video. Definitely let me know any of your thoughts on any of these books, and if you liked this and you're new to my channel, I would love it if you would subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.